that actually Women Who Code is actually international non-profit for the ones that is joining us today, and you have it's the first time you heard about us today. So Women Who Code is actually international non-profit organization where we are aiming to inspire women to excel in the tech industry. So we actually over in Malaysia. So Women Who Code Kuala Lumpur has actually been running since I think 2014. So we've been helping to organize like different workshops and we actually have different multiple tracks that over in Women Who Code KL. We run things like for the data track, the product track, and we also have things like for the software engineering and also machine learning kind of tracks. And this track specifically, we are welcome you to join us, which is we are actually running this track for cybersecurity. So other than like having key panel discussions like this, we also have like we run different workshops and also like introduce different discussion, different sessions like these. So yeah, really happy to have this discussion for today, and I probably going to segue into maybe letting Jamie to take over to talk a little bit more about like Maxis and our talk for today lah. Okay.
Sure. Hi everybody, welcome. Happy Saturday. My name is Jamie Lim and I take care of inclusion and diversity at Maxis. And one of our initiatives at Maxis is to reach out and continue to encourage women community in technology. Hence, we are working together with Women Who Code and featuring some of our colleagues to speak in Women Who Code events. So for those who do not know Maxis, I'm sure I hope you have heard of Maxis before. We are one of the Malaysia's leading communications provider. We celebrated our 25 years last year. Maxis covers about 93% of our 4G population, and we are embarking on initiatives with 5G offerings. We are one of the undisputed mobile network leader and of course, mobile revenue market leader. But this is not all. Maxis is not just a telco company. We are also embarking on a transformation and also enabling our customers to use technology in improvising their processes. So we are providing these services to help our customers like individuals, SMEs, large corporations, and around Malaysia, which is why topics like cybersecurity and technology topics hold dear to our heart. Within Maxis itself, we have about 3,700 engaged employees. And one of our vision for Maxis is to always be ahead, which is why today what we want to do is with this talk, we want to share a little bit about cybersecurity, how this is becoming an important topic within the technology industry, and it is a critical area of IT. So with that, maybe I'll pass it back to Vicky, who will share a little bit more about the rest of the session. Thank you, Vicky.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thanks, Jamie. So before we go into the bulk of it, so we do have some house rules that we want to go through with all the audience here today. First thing is that we will be, at the moment, we are actually muting your mic. So if you you can unmute during the breakout session, or if like during the Q&A session, if you like to voice out your questions over to our speaker at the end, you can do so. And then other than that, apart from like I mentioned, so apart from like doing that at the end of the session, you can also, if you have like a question immediately, like you can just straight away write it in the chat, and you can also raise your hand as well, and we will try to unmute you so that you can voice out your questions to the speaker if you want to. And then other than that, at the end of the session, after we went through, go through everything, so we will really appreciate if you can leave your feedback. And then towards the end, we also have like we would like everyone to stay back to at least have a group photo together. Okay. So I think that's about the house rules that we'll be going through. So I will pass it over to Maryam. So it's my great honor to introduce Maryam over here to to start our talk. Okay. So yeah, take it away, Maryam.
So sorry for the delay, all. We'll wait for Maryam to come back.
Yeah. Maybe Jamie, you want to go through the hiring, the recruitment, some maybe more detail about the recruitment for Maxis.
Right. Yeah, sure. So just let me put the video on.
Yeah.
Hi,
While we're
everyone.
waiting.
While we are waiting, just to share with you that, as I mentioned to you earlier, Maxis is moving towards providing technology services to our customers. So we are recruiting for technical roles. And if you are interested or if you are looking out, please feel free to, I'll put in the link later, but please feel free to look into Maxis Careers. We have quite a number of technical roles that are available, whether cybersecurity or even beyond cybersecurity. So if you have the time and you're really looking out, I would encourage you to look into the roles that we currently have available. Now, I see Maryam seems to be back in. Perhaps I'll just ping her and ask her if she's ready to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's give them a couple of minutes.
I'm so sorry that these technical things happen. Okay. So from the beginning, generally, the concern that we have from security side, once moving to the cloud, we don't have full visibility of the cloud infrastructure. We don't have full access. Then we won't be able to protect a lot of area of the cloud. So once from business side, they approach us to protect the environment in the cloud, or once we want to move to the cloud, it is a big challenge for us. That is it a good decision? How we can protect our information, how protect our infrastructure once we don't have access, once we don't allow to audit the infrastructure, audit the environment. But based on the policy, technology, and controls that we deploy in cloud, in collaboration with the cloud security providers, we would be able to achieve the requirement from business to secure our environment. So if you ask that securing the cloud environment is easy or it's hard, you will find it out at the end of this session. Okay, can we go to the next slide? Okay, so I wanted to have a fresh remind on the concept of the cloud service model and deployment model that it is defined by NIST. So from cloud service model, they have three definitions of IaaS, that it is infrastructure as a service, which control over OS, storage, and application. From PaaS, we have platform as a service, that one control on storage and application. And from SaaS, we have limited access to some of the setting over a specific application user access. From the deployment model, I guess that the name is self-explanatory. So, but what I want to highlight about the deployment model is the way of decision at the end, that how we are going to the cloud based on which deployment model. The decision that you're going to choose, it is heavily influenced by your organization risk appetite, by the cost that you want to allocate, because private cloud, it is absolutely clear it's going to be more expensive rather than public cloud. Or from the compliance or regulatory requirements. Some regulatory, they just require to put your information, some sensitive information on premise. They don't allow you to put them on the cloud. So you need to have full visibility of the regulatory that you need to comply with. So once you're going to choose one of these deployment model, you need to understand the whole business requirement of those. Next slide, please. So the most important part that you shouldn't forget is about the responsibility. Once you choose different model, different service model, you are responsible for different section of the information and the layer network that you are going to have. Of course, this responsibility, it is shared between CSP, cloud service provider, from customer or enterprise, which is your organization, or it can be specifically your responsibility of CSP specifically. But at the end, the most important part you need to remember that data security protection is your responsibility as a customer. So if there is a breach or if there is a leakage of the data at the end, from the organization, from the respective organization to find or need to answer the question to the customer is enterprise or your organization. So can we go to the next? Thank you. From cloud security domain, we have 6 domains. Among these 6 domains, 2 of them is mostly on the responsibility of the cloud service provider. I will explain later, but have it in your mind that for architecture domain, from architect domain, it is mostly onto building the blocks of cloud-based system. For example, once you want to go to the cloud, you need to build some virtualization, some blocks related to virtualization, storage, network. We will discuss about it later. From data security, it is more about implementing confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Once you're going to the cloud, you need to consider that confidentiality of the information need to be remain. The integrity need to maintain. It means that the information that you have here on your premise, and once you move it to the cloud, the information shouldn't be changed. The availability, the information need to be accessible to your users, to your staff. So once you go to the cloud, you need to make sure that the availability is already there. So generally, the data security focusing on implementing data discovery and classification technologies. It is related to the cloud because the cloud discovery and classification techniques is completely different from the one that we already have on premise. And you need to have the dedicated tools in place. So for cloud platform and infra security, which cover both physical and virtual. From physical perspective, it covers all the security requirement to design data center, from physical access to the cooling techniques for use of appliances in your data center. And mostly this part, it's involved from CSP. So cloud service provider need to maintain and keep security in terms of platform and in terms of the physical in place. As I mentioned, the other area of this domain is about network security, is about virtual security, from the access control, from bandwidth allocation, filtering and routing, all those areas that we already have on premise. We need to make sure from cloud side also it is secure and it is in place. For example, for virtualization, how cloud service provider are going to allocate storage and compute instances in the multi-tenancy environment in a way that none of their customer, in fact, to be impacted by shortage of resources, because at the end, we are, as a customer, we are using a pool of resources. From a cloud security perspective, they have one resources that share between the customers. So they need to make sure they allocate enough instances from storage, from CPU, from the RAM, which all comes with a virtualization concept to the users. The other one is cloud application security. Cloud application security is more involved with the cloud software assurance and refer to the controls that are included within system and applications. They use the step in the development, for example, SDLC, which is software development lifecycle. So we need to make sure all those steps are already used in our cloud application once we are moving to the cloud, because those steps provide different level of security in each. Any questions so far? I guess that I'm audible, that there is no...
Yeah, it's good. You can proceed.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So if I explain about the steps from SDLC, we have 5 steps over there. The first one is planning and requirement analysis, that we need to gather all the business and security requirement. And based on that, we need to define, we need to go to next step, which is defining. I just want to emphasize on the cloud application security. You need to involve security from the beginning, from the initial phase of developing your application, because from the first you need to gather all the requirements from security. So in case if you miss this part at the end, once you reach to second or third step and you want to involve your security, get a compliance checklist done, maybe you need to go back and just redo the work, that it is not beneficial for the organization in terms of the time, in terms of the cost, so it will be a lose. So have it in your mind, once it comes to the cloud application security, if you want to define the process for that, please put security in place from the beginning. The next phase of SDLC is defining, that you need to define and document all the product requirements. What is this product? What is this application related? Who is your customer? Who is the user at the end? Once you come with a plan and once you come with a definition, then you can go to the designing. The designing is the phase of system design that helps to specify hardware, system requirement, and at the end, the overall, it comes with architecture. Then we will reach to the developing. The developing part is the actual part of coding. So you already have your plan, you already define your product requirement, you already design your architecture. Now it's a time to just do the coding. So a lot of organization I saw that they just define and they just go to the developing, and then they find out that a lot of requirement is missed, a lot of security perspective, it is not already answered, and then they need to just back and do the rework. So the developing, I mean the coding, it is quiet at the end. Then you will reach to the testing. So you will have full 5 steps in your application security. Once you reach to the testing, you need to just do the penetration testing on the code to find out whether if it has some area, some bugs in the application that might impact the organization in future. And also you need to find out whether the business requirement that you defined from the beginning is already addressed or already implemented in your application, in your development. The 5th domain is operation. The main goal of operation is to explain the requirement to develop, plan, and implement the physical and logical infrastructure. So logical design, there are several considerations about multi-tenancy, virtualization, your cloud management plane. So that's why the concept of defense in depth comes to the picture. So you need to have layer by layer of the protection of defense in your organization. It is, if I want to simulate in a way that even in the defense of the country, we have different layers. We have army from air, we have army from the ground, we have army from the sea. It depends on the geographical part. So it comes to the organization in the same way that you need to have different layers step by step. So attacker won't be able in first place get access to your data. The core asset that you are going to protect in the security is your data. So all those instances that you put, all those network, firewall, gateway, whatever that you put, it is to protect the data. So the first layer is to plan and implement a firewall or your ideas IPS. So this part, it is covering, once it comes to the cloud, this part is covering by security, by cloud provider, sorry. So the last part is legal and compliance. That is defining how to approach the various legal and regulatory requirements and challenges. So in order to comply with the regulatory requirements, first, we should understand the audit process, because the audit process in cloud, it is completely different from the on-prem. As I mentioned, a lot of cloud service providers, they don't allow you to get information, the details information from the audit. They will provide you some report in some levels. So, for example, based on one of the audit report that they can provide, they call it SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3. So they provide the portion of information of the environment because they want to protect the environment as well for other customers that they have. So if you are a customer of Amazon, if you are a customer of Microsoft, they won't give you the details of the architecture. They don't give you the details of audit record from the application, from the design that they have. So they just give you the certificate over it. Okay, can we go to next slide? Okay. I bring out the details information for architecture. The first domain that we talked, it was about architecture, how you are going to design. So you need to understand what is the design requirement. So there are several areas you should consider once it comes to the designing a cloud environment. And I will explain one of them. The first one is network security and perimeter. It is simply referring to the security of physical environment and logical security control. There are two key elements related to this area. The first one is physical environment security that ensure access to the cloud services is protected and monitored. The second one is logical network security controls, which is referring to the link, protocol, switches, and so on. So once it comes to the cloud, the perimeter doesn't have a real and tangible meaning because there is no boundary in the cloud, but it is the main responsibility of CSP in a cloud in different cloud categories, whether it is IaaS, whether it is PaaS, or it is SaaS, to protect the physical environment. The second requirement for design is cryptography. The need for cryptography, it is really clear for everybody to protect the confidential information. So as a fact, encryption is one of the main methods to enable secure access to your resources. Maybe you have a lot of control in place to protect your information, your data, your traffic, but still there is a chance to leak out. Still there is a chance to get access by hackers. So if you have encrypted information, if you have cryptography in place, even if your information leaked out, or if they get access to your traffic, they won't be able to get the information. So once it comes to the cryptography, we need to in place this technology for data in transit and data at rest. So for data in transit, I guess that everybody knows the definition. So data in transit is once that you're using your data, once you're sharing your data, for example, once you're uploading your data from on-prem to the cloud. This data need to be protected by encryption. One of the best known use of cryptography for the data in transit scenario is SSL and TLS. Secure socket layer and transport layer security. So, or the other one, I guess, that majority of you are familiar is IPsec that we use in our VPN. And also you need to implement data at rest, especially once you archive your data based on the regulatory requirement or based on the business requirement. Maybe you need to put the retention period for 7 years or for 2 years. It doesn't matter about the period, but you need to protect your data. So the best way to protect your data is to encrypt the data over there. But the main part of the security for encryption is the key management. So from security perspective, we are really worried about the key, how you manage it, how you are protecting, where do you put it. So once it comes to the key management, there are two main recommendations that, first of all, you should put your key management process and system in the separate environment rather than your provider, rather than the place that you host your data. For example, if you are putting your data in the S3 bucket in Amazon, it is not advised to put the key management in the Amazon in the same environment that your data is reside, because if someone get access to the key management, they would be able to also decrypt your data. If you're putting that key management in your on-prem, so the best practice is to put them in the isolated environment. If some of the attackers, they manage to get access to your environment, so they won't get access to your key. Still, your data is encrypted and they won't be misuse your data. Okay. The third part is IAM and access control. This is also one of the main concepts from security folks. So we are really strict about the access to the information. So the IAM can be include of people, process, and system that manage to access to the enterprise resources. I find out a lot of people, a lot of security folks, even though they have some misunderstanding, or sometimes we forget that IAM or access, it is not only covering the human user access. It is also covering system-to-system access. So imagine that you have a system in your organization that they need the report, send a report to your SIEM. So from the main system, you're going to send a log to SIEM. So you need to build the access from your application, for example, to your SIEM. There is an access over there. You need to also protect that access. So generally, you need to ensure the identity of the entity. It can be a human being, it can be a system. It should be verified that in a way that say, who are they? Can they prove who are they? And then granting the correct level of access based on the asset, based on the service, and based on the resource that they want to get access. Because, for example, sending a log to SIEM doesn't need to have admin level access. It just needs to maybe have access to inject some input, just that. So the level of the access that it is going to grant it to those entities, it is also important. So once it comes to IAM, there are four phases. There are four key phases. One is provisioning and deprovisioning, which is referring to create a process to create an account and delete it as when as needed. So it can be, for example, I just joined a company. An account need to be created, an ID or an account need to be created to assign to myself. So once I leave the company, this account or this ID need to be deleted. And this part, it should be covered under IAM. The second one is centralized directory services. This is the foundation of IAM. Majority of you are aware of Active Directory. Active Directory using some protocol like LDAP and make query and modify item in directory service. In another word, I can say that LDAP act as a communication protocol to interact with your Active Directory, to get information from your Active Directory. The third part is privileged user management. So as the name implies, it focuses on the process and ongoing requirement to manage the life cycle of user account with highest privilege in a system. Not everybody should have the same level of access based on the role, based on the activity that they are going to perform in the environment. They need to get access to the system. Some users, they need to have privileged access. That privileged access need to be monitored because they are the highest chance to get attacked by attacker, because attacker would be perform whatever that they want if they get access to, if they manage to get that privilege account. The fourth is authentication and access management. So you need to determine the authorization of the user, the user right to access certain resources. The fourth part is data and media sanitization. Data and media sanitization is referring to cleaning your data after certain use of certain period of use of information. After the information it is not needed, you need to sanitize your data. So by nature, cloud-based environment are usually hosting data in multiple formats. The structure is different, the type is different. So this one can lead to a security threat that's called vendor locking. It is really important. Once it comes to the cloud, you need to think about the vendor locking. You need to think in terms of what kind of format, what kind of structure that data is going to be saved in the data in the cloud. Because once it comes to the sanitization part, maybe you won't be able to extract your information. So generally, if I want to explain what is vendor locking, it means that when customers are unable to leave or migrate or transfer the data from one cloud service provider to another one, or maybe they won't be able even to transfer the data to on-premise because of some technical or even non-technical issue. For example, I want to export the data in the structure format, but it is already in the flat-based text file in the cloud provider that I have. So we need to think about this part. So the other part that it comes to sanitizing the data is cryptographic erasure. You know that it is not possible. Okay, maybe I just explain what is on-premise. The on-premise one, From on-premise, we are using, once it comes to the sanitization of the data, we are going to delete and maybe we just going to destroy the physical storage completely, but it is not a possible option. One is going to the cloud, because that physical section, it is not only for our organization, it is already shared with the other organization. Imagine that you have one hard drive, and that hard drive is already divided by 3 or 4 partition. 3 or 4 partition is really few number, and each partition is belong to your organization. So once you want to remove data, once your data reach to the expiry time, so you won't be able to destroy the physical hard drive. You need to find a way to sanitize the data. So cryptographic erasure is one of the methods to erase the data or data overwriting. So how cryptographic erasure works? We erase each block that it is assigned to us from the storage perspective, and then we override with the known pattern, and we erase it again. And we put the key recovery once stored. It means that we just encrypt it, and then we encrypt the key as well. In data overwriting, we just overwrite the data multiple times. So of course, it is not the best technique for sanitize the confidential information, but it makes difficult for attackers to just get access to the main data. The other area of the design that you need to take care is virtualization security. So you know that when we talk about the cloud, we should be thankful for virtualization technology, because virtualization make cloud computing become a real service offering, the saving, sharing, and allocation of the resources across multiple tenant and environment. But we also need to have some concern, as this virtualization will open doors for attackers. So most critical component to enable virtualization technology is hypervisor. Hypervisor is a concept that we need to understand how to protect them. The role of hypervisor is to allow multiple OS to share a single hardware host. As I mentioned, for the storage, imagine that you have one storage, one hard disk, and it is divided in different partition, and each partition is allocated to one of the OS that it is over hypervisor. So hypervisor, it is over the hardware. Who is going to manage all this process, all these details is hypervisor. So we need to understand that what is the hypervisor details. So we have 2 types of hypervisor. Type 1 hypervisor, that those running directly on the hardware with VM. They also call it bare metal hypervisor. It is similar to the Citrix or VMware, that if you are working on that. The type 2 hypervisor is run on the host OS to provide virtualization services. It is similar to VMware Workstation, that I believe majority of students also use VMware Workstation or VirtualBox in their assignment. So this is the type 2 hypervisor that you are using. But once it comes to the security, you need to consider that type 1 reduced the attack surface significantly over type 2. The reason why is that in the type 2 hypervisor, it is OS based and most attractive to the attacker, because it is running on another OS. It is easier to attack them rather than attacking a hardware. From hypervisor 1, it is running on the hardware, so it is harder to get attacked. So The other one is common threat. I don't go to the details because I guess that everybody knows and we are short of time. So the common threat is I just bring a few of them here. There are a huge list of threats outside, but the common one is data breach and data loss. Data breach and data loss is different. Have it in your mind. Data breach is the way that attacker just get information. There is a leakage in any way. Maybe it is internal issue or there is some attacker, whatever, that data is breached. Data loss is the way that maybe you lost your data once it is in the cloud. Maybe you lost the data once you are you lost the laptop. It is something not related to the cloud, but it is one of the example of the data loss, that you lose your laptop, the data is already lost. It is not the data breach. But once come to the cloud, the data is assigned in different locations. So your data is already split in different areas. Maybe there is a phenomenon, maybe there is an earthquake, maybe there is a flood in another data center. So the data that it is on that data center is already lost, and you lose your data if you don't have the backup. Malicious insider is one of the actually the one of the important things that we already have in security or in the organization is role of people, process, and technology. So malicious insider could come from insider. One of the internal staff or ex-staff can get access to the information and misuse it once they are not allowed to get access to those. Account or service traffic hijacking, it is clear by the name that someone get access to traffic and just sniff all the traffic. It is similar to man-in-the-middle attack that we face frequently. The last common threat that we face is insecure interface and API. It is really common in cloud computing. The reason why is that accessing to cloud computing and resources is via API that provided by CSP or open source APIs. So the key function of the API is, which is performed utilizing the provider interface. So in terms of the provisioning, management, and monitoring, so all is rely on APIs. So third-party organization and customer build additional interface to the API, which result in multiple layer APIs. That one make it really challenging for security to protect the APIs. So we highly recommend to have API gateway in place to make sure that API is protected. Okay, the other one is cloud secure data lifecycle. So generally for data lifecycle, I will explain it later, but have it in your mind that you have 6 phases in your data lifecycle, from creating that new digital content created, or even the existing one is modified. That one is also considered as creation phase. The second part is a store. Data is committed to a storage repository. So you're going to store your information into the cloud storage in your S3 bucket, or you're going to save it in OneNote. So it is a storage phase. The third part is usage. Data is viewed, processed, or used in some other way. So you're using your data. Sharing of the information is giving access or giving access to others for those information. And the archive is referring to data leave the active mode, and you need to store the data for the long term. And the last part is the destroy. that you need to permanently destroy the data. On premise, we're using physical destruction, or for cloud, we use digital method to destroy the application, to destroy the information. So the last part is not the last part. One of the main part I can say that it is business continuity and disaster recovery planning. The goal for business continuity, or BC, is to keep business operating and functioning once there is a disruption. So you need to understand the customer role and responsibility via CSP role and responsibility. The other one is disaster recovery planning, which is process for planning and measuring need to be taken to ensure that event or the disaster, during the event or disaster, business can respond with recovering critical asset. It can be partial or it can be full recovery. So once comes to the business continuity and disaster recovery, because customer, you as an enterprise, I mean, and cloud service provider, both are involved. So you need to have a full meaning of role and responsibility. You need to have a full SLA in place. Who is going to use those process? Who is going to share the process? The archive and the destroy also, it is important in terms of the business continuity and disaster recovery. So I saw one of the question was that what is the difference, or what is the benefit of moving to the cloud and not moving to the cloud? I guess that once you're going to the cloud, the most important part is the cost benefit analysis as well, because you're going to use pooling of resources. So you're not going to pay for a month for the appliances, for the hardware. And at the end, you save a lot in that part. Also, from the financial perspective, you're going to shift from CapEx to the OpEx. This is, from financial perspective, all the finance side, they prefer to have OpEx instead of CapEx. It reduces a huge number of money over there. The other one is factoring time and efficiency. You're not going to spend a lot of time on the maintenance, on the configuration. You can spin up the instances quickly. You are not going to purchase the hardware and install it, do the cabling, all is inbuilt over there. So you are just using it whenever that you need it. So you're going to save the utility cost, and you're going to save software and licensing costs. For example, if you're going for the PaaS, you don't need to purchase the different licenses for your OS. If you're going for SaaS, you're not going to purchase the license related to the software that you're going to use. Maybe you're just using the agent that you're going to use. And at the end, you're going to pay per usage. It means that whatever that you use, you pay. But once it comes to the on-prem, you are paying maybe upfront more, but not utilizing, because you want to have certain buffer in case that you lost the, you reach to the level of utilization, at least you have the buffer. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, do you have any question? Otherwise, I will ask question.
Is that to the audience, or is that to like us?
I think there were some questions in the chat.
There was one, I think, pertaining to like the slide, because it's quite a heavy slide. So maybe like we can answer those. Like Jessica asked about the ADAC. Is it mean the Active Directory Administrative Center? Is that what you're referring to? Maryam, hi.
Oh, sorry. I was on mute.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the question again?
Just now I think you mentioned about the ADAC. What was the acronym for that? Like ADAC? I think you're on mute again, Mike.
Oh, okay. Actually, AD is referring to the Active Directory that we use in organization to keep information for identity, to create the ID, to assign the password. So whatever access that user are going to granted, it is based on the ID that they already have in the Active Directory in the AD.
Okay. I think there's also another one. Oh, sorry. There was also another question about the cryptographic erasure. So is the data block reusable after sanitization?
Oh, actually, no. Once you erase your data, the data, it is not able to be accessible because you are going to encrypt the key as well. You encrypt the data by the key, and then you're going to encrypt your data again. This is the way of erasing the data in the cloud. So you need to make sure once it reaches to the erasing time, it is highly not possible to return back the data or decrypt the data again, because you need to use the second key to decrypt the key, and then you need to use the key to decrypt the information.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. I think, is there any other question pertaining to like, there's a very valuable slide that Maryam has shared. I think if there isn't any further questions from the audience, we can move forward with the other slides. Or if Maryam, do you have a question for us?
Yes, actually, we prepare some question.
Okay.
I guess that Jamie would be able to share. It is so simple. It is not something complicated, but
Okay.
I try to bring to concept of this presentation, and also to make a little bit fun
interactive
once they are just listening to my voice.
Yeah.
So just a minute, let me try to share it again. I need to share the sound as well.
Okay.
So if you could log on to Kahoot, and this is the ID number. So we have a few questions to try to make this session interesting. So I will start now. If you could launch, if you can go on it, it would be great. So we are waiting for players to come in.
Can you make the music faster?
So we have at least 17 of us online. So if you could get at least 10, that would be great. Once you've logged on to Kahoot, please go into 369, type in the ID 3698743.
Don't worry, it is few questions and it is not complicated.
Let's wait for another 3 participants. At least another 3? No? Okay, 2 more, come on. Okay, I'll give a count of 10. If there's not many more to sign in, then we'll start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we'll start. The first question is popping up soon. Privileged user account access should be. So pick from the 4 answers below. Three more to answer. Oh, we got 9 answers. Great. The answer should be temporary. So yeah, only one of you got it right. Congratulations. We'll move on to the next one. Please answer the question in the picture attached. Maryam, perhaps you want to share the reason why the answer is portability. The second question, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this question is talking about if you are an SME for an organization to consider transition from traditional IT enterprise, which is a stable, your information is a stable sitting there, to a hosted cloud provider data center. The main challenge that you are facing, whether provider will have undue control over your data once it is within within the provider data center. It is too small, sorry for me to read. Will the provider to be able to hold your organization hostage because they are your data? This is portability issue, because you know that in cloud, one of the issues that we worry is about the portability. Portability is one of the concerns that I talk about it. It is vendor locking. You are not able to easily take your data from one data center to another data center. So the portability is another phrase of vendor locking.
Okay, we'll move on to the second question, the third question. So we got third or fourth. The following IT costs will most likely be reduced by moving from traditional on-premises to cloud. So which is the IT cost most likely reduced? So we've got 7 more seconds for you to key in your answers.
It was one of the beneficial cost analysis in the slide. Well done.
Okay, 2 of you got it right. Well done. And we'll move on to the last question. So Ale is leading the leaderboard. So in which of the following situation does the data owner have to administer the operating system? Ten seconds left for you to key in your answers. Okay, we've got all the answers in. Most of you got it right. Congratulations. So
well
let's
done.
see who's leading the podium, the top 3 of the podium. So number 3, Asu, congratulations. You're ranked number 3. I don't know who's PP, but congratulations. And number 1, the winner of this session is Il. Well done. Okay, so we have got a couple more slides to continue. And I'll get back to the slides.
Okay, thank
Jamie,
you so
we
much
still
for
can hear
your
the
collaboration.
music, actually.
Sorry?
Yeah. Well, we can still hear the music playing from Jamie. But yeah, okay, you can continue sharing the slides. Yep.
Thank you, Jamie.
All good.
So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for collaboration. Thank you for joining. So if I want to give feedback, maybe you just refer back to the definition and the basic concept of cloud computing, and then it will be easy for you to understand all those issues that we are facing in cloud, and you would be able to answer all the questions 4 out of 4. If you remember, one of the domain that we discussed about the cloud computing was about the cloud data security. So we already discussed about the cloud data lifecycle from creation up to destroy. But in this slide, I just want to bring the technology that are going also protect the data from each phase. From creation, you remember that it is the generating the data or altering the existing one. So this is the best time to classify your data. If you are wondering what is classify or classification of the data in the organization, the basic but the most important part of the data security practice is to classify your data. Classification means that you put a label in terms of the confidentiality of the information, sensitivity of the information, from maybe 1 to 5 rate. It depends on the organization. Organization need to define the classification schema. For example, saying that this kind of information would be able to be accessed by public. You can share it in your social media. But another type of information, it is only internal use. So it is only for the staff. There are another level of classification which is confidential. It is only limited to a specific organization or a specific department in the organization. Or maybe you have really sensitive top secret information in your organization that only C-level they would be able to access and get information from those data. So this is the best time to classify your data once you are going to create it. In terms of the labeling also, you would be able to label your data. You put the data owner, you put the data custodian. So it will be really easy in the future to monitor and to process your data. The second phase is storing the data. That the best control is encryption that we discussed. We need to put access policy, monitoring, logging, and backup as well once you are going to store your data. The second part is usage. The third part is usage. Once you're going to use your data, you need to make sure that it is not transferred to some platform that it is not allowed, or maybe it is not accessed by some people that they don't have authorized access. So the control such as DLP, IRM, or DRM, database and file access monitoring, they are really good tools to be used once you are in the phase of usage. The fourth part is sharing, that still DLP and IRM would be able to control the sharing section. I will explain later. For the archive, the best way is to encrypting. Of course, you need to consider the cost that utilizing for the archiving the data. And of course, the duration of the archive depends on the regulatory and classification of the data. For example, some information that are classified as high level, based on the business requirement, they need to be archived for 7 years. But some regulatory, they require to have specific information to be archived for 1 year. It depends on the regulatory. From the security perspective, you need to understand both. So we already discussed about the destroying part, that we are going to logically erase the pointer or permanently destroying, which is not possible in the public cloud. If you have private cloud, there is a possibility to permanently destroy your physical storage. Okay, next please. Okay. Once it comes to the data security, first you need to understand the data storage, the type of data storage that you have, and the associated threat. So you, based on the data store, based on the service model, you had different type of storage. I'm not going to the details because we are short of time, but imagine that once you are going to move your information to the cloud, first of all, you need to understand that which service model you are going. Is it IaaS? You would be able to have volume storage versus object storage. Then you need to make a decision which one is applicable to the scenario that you are going to moving forward. And then you need to understand the threat that associated with that storage. So understanding of the storage type help you to protect your information against those threats. So if I try to quickly describe one of the storage that we have, for example, for the volume storage, it's a virtual hard drive that attached to the virtual machine. So the object storage is similar to the file sharing access from your API or web interface, such as Amazon S3. So once you're going to protect the object storage, you need to have it in your mind that API is also involved in that part. From the past, you would have two types of storage. One is a structure, the other one is unstructured way. And the structure is information with a high degree of organization, such as database will be there. So you had this this level of categorization and organized way in your data. Unstructured one is that reside in the traditional raw column database, that it is include text and multimedia content, usually used for video, photos, and audios. So, for example, if you are from entertainment industry and you want to move your information to the cloud, the best option is choose PaaS and unstructured data. For the SaaS, we also had two type of storage, the information storage and management, that data entered into the system via web interface and stored within the SaaS application. So mostly used for the database. Content data file storage, it is file-based content. It is similar what we have in the Windows or in our current application, in current services, the OS that we have. So of course, there are a lot of storage type there, but they are the main one that we are going to use in the cloud environment. So have it in your mind, what kind of storage, what type of storage. You need to you need to subscribe, and based on the service model that you want to go. So the threat that associated to those storage is, I just named them, unauthorized usage, that your account can hijack or upload illegal content. So this part is mostly challenging because of the multi-tenancy concept of the cloud. Unauthorized access, which is well explained, that hacking or improper permission, or even sometimes internal CSP employee get access to the information that the customer have in that cloud service provider. It is one of the major issue that can happen in the cloud. Unauthorized access by internal CSP employee. So you need to have a proper contract with your CSP once you want to move your data to the cloud to cover this area. So liability due to regulatory non-compliance. Some of the compliance has a specific control in place that the cloud service provider won't be able to fulfill those requirements. So you will lead to non-compliance issue at the end. DOS or DDoS attack on the storage. So it's gonna remove the availability of the storage, which is really a strong concern from cloud storage. It means that your user, they won't be able to get access to the data. So availability part of CIA is already impacted. Corruption, modification, and destruction of the data. So it can be happened due to human error, software or hardware failure, or even the hacking. Or I mentioned earlier about the national disaster. It can also cause this threat. So, for example, you need to consider once you move your data to the cloud, those areas, those location or data center that they have high possibility of earthquake, it's considered as high risk. Data leakage and breach that we discussed earlier. Theft or accidental loss of media, we also discussed earlier. Malware attack or introduction. So the goal of most of the malware is to reach to the data. So might be the entrances from one of the traffic attacking, or from a system, from software attack, but at the end they want to get access to your data. So you need to also protect your information from those attacks. Improper treatment or sanitization after end of use. So we also discussed about this. It is one of the main part that we discuss, how to sanitize your data. Okay. Can we go to next slide? Okay. So I just quickly go through the technologies that we are going to implement once coming to the data security. So DLP is one of the main security tools for our cloud. There are three components for DLP. It is for discovery and classification. We already discussed about the classification. The monitoring phase of DLP will just monitor all the area, all the platform that your information is reside there, and based on the classification. And at the end, it is enforcement. The enforcement is based on the policy. So you are not able to perform some activity that it is not based on the framework. For example, you are not going to share confidential information to your Gmail or to your friend. So once you're going to have DLP architecture, you need to implement it in all area that data is reside. It is in motion, it is at rest, it is in use. So you need to cover all sections. Another one is encryption that we talk mainly about that. The component that you have is your data for sure, the encryption engine and the encryption key. the encryption engine performs the encryption on the data, and the encryption key is the part that you use to encrypt and decrypt your information. If you want to have detailed information of each, I highly recommend you to go to a book called CCSP. The details you would be able to find over there. Unfortunately, because of the shortage of time, I won't be able to bring the details. So for the key management, you would be able to manage the key, the encryption key internally. It means that the key management will reside in your premise. As I mentioned earlier, you need to isolate it in the environment, isolated environment. You can put it in the external manage. It means that you already have the control over the key, but you save it and you put it in the, for example, cloud provider. So the management is over there. Or generally, it is managed by third parties. So creation of the key and storage of the key will be managed by the third party. Another security technology related to the data is masking or tokenization. That I guess many of you are familiar with that. For example, you can see that a part of your credit card is already masked, but only last 4 digit is available. So that part, it is called masking. Or there is another way that they just shuffle the information. The number is shuffled. It is not only about the number, it can be about the data. So the order of the data, it is not a sequence as it should be. So they already shuffle the information. Or they already have some deletion of some specific part of the data. So it is really important to use this technique once your, for example, customer service wants to deal with some specific information, but it shouldn't be viewable by the system, by the officer over there. Only system need to get access to those information and just analyze the information. So that's why that scenario we are using these techniques to protect our data. And the last one is information or data right management, that I really recommend organization to use this technique, especially for confidential information, because there are many ways to lose the data in different way. But if you put information right management over there, then it is highly protected. How does it work? It is based on the access control list. It means that you have a list of the people with the name and with the role that they can have access to those. So once right person get access to the information, the right role will be assigned to the user. So it will be able to read it or amend it based on the role that it is assigned to it. And it is regardless of the location. It means that it is attached to the document, for example, that you have, the file that you have, and it is following the location. So if it breaches, or if it is already leave your environment, so the right person only would be able to get access to those information. Okay. So any question?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll get one question in, like for the last round, because we are really running short on time. So one of the questions that we have here is that, is it a must to get at least, maybe one of the questions to answer is it a must to get at least a certificate to kickstart in cybersecurity? Because I think this is one of the questions that was asked before.
Okay, that is really good question, and it is hard for me to comment on that, because I myself, I'm not fan of license or certificate, but mostly it's about the knowledge that you have, it's about the experience that you have. But the market expected us to just prove somehow that we have the knowledge, how we want to prove the knowledge that we have. So it is one of the good way to show the knowledge that we have. But a lot of colleagues, I am aware, they have massive knowledge, and maybe they didn't sit for the certificate.
Yeah. Like how do they normally get started?
Yeah.
Like in the cybersecurity scope or career?
Sorry, come again?
Like how do they normally get started? Like how did most of you get started? Like maybe that can be a very helpful tip for like our listeners today.
If I just want to tell my own story, actually, I had my degree in computer engineering. It was mostly related to networking, but I need to just go through a lot of book, CCNP, CCIE, those to get the knowledge. And the way that at least I would be able to convince the interviewer that I have the knowledge based on the way that I answer the question. But I would suggest that there at the moment there are many resources in the internet. You would be able to just go through, discover, and sometimes it is better to start from some floor level. I'm not sure it is cultural things, or some people they prefer to have a high level in one of the organization. But once you don't know the floor, when you don't know the ground issue, you won't be able to reach to the high. So if you want to really start from the basic, get your hand dirty with some of the coding, especially nowadays for the cloud. It is a really massive area, and pick one area first. Pick one of the service provider, go with Azure or with AWS, get master on one topic, and then move forward to another one. Of course, certificate helps you a lot. There is no doubt about that. But in case that you get the knowledge and you won't be able, or you don't have the chance to sit for the exam, it is really good to have the knowledge. At least in the interview session, you would be able to answer the question. The way that you present yourself is the most important part.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for answering the question. Unfortunately, I think we really ran out of time. So maybe I will just wrap up the session. Okay. So I think thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. And we would like to actually hear your feedback for the session. If you so at the moment I'm sharing the screen for the form. Are you able to scan the QR? Hello.
I've taken the screenshot of it because
okay.
Something to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. All right.
Yeah. Surely we'll send the feedback soon. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Thank you so much. And then for the next, so for the next one is like we would just like to wrap up the session with connecting with Maxis. So Jamie, if you would like to share a bit about hiring.
So just very quickly, we are hiring technical and non-technical roles as well. So if you are interested for a career move, or you're looking for a new career, please scan the QR code attached, and it will lead you to the Maxis careers page. But if you'd like to stay in touch with us as well, we have other social medias that I've put in links here. Or if you'd like to connect with Maryam, you can connect with her via LinkedIn. And those links are also put in the chat. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you everyone for the time also, and for the sharings, and it's really helpful and really knowledgeable. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the last plug that we have today is like we will have, if you like to stay updated with us, we are, for last time, we are Women Who Code and Kuala Lumpur. And thank you so much for Maxis with Jamie and Maryam to actually share this very valuable